I welcome you to the Top 10 channel. Subscribe to the channel, put a like, and we start the next top. 10 killers with strange motives. There is always a justification supplied by the culprit, no matter how horrible the crime. Voices instructed me to kill all those prostitutes. He was sleeping with my wife, and I did it in the name of are all explanations that are all too frequently read as newspaper headlines. However, every now and again, a killer emerges from his or her blood-soaked crime scene to announce motives so bizarre that society takes notice of their acts. The cases on this list are as intriguing as they are horrific because humanity possesses a certain amount of bloodlust that, when combined with a fascination with the inexplicable, makes them as compelling as they are macabre. Dennis Nilsen, killing for the company. Dennis Nilsen is one of the most prolific serial killers in the United Kingdom. He's also one of the most mysterious. Nilsen took 15 different men out on beautiful dates, treated them well, and then murdered them between 1978 and 1983. He frequently strangled or drowned his victims once they became inebriated. He then took care of the bodies, bathing and redressing them before arranging them in horrific tableaux about his living room. He treated the corpses as if they were his roommates, even having sex with them on occasion. He gained the moniker, the kindly killer, as a result of this practice. Nilsen's assassinations began at his first London apartment, 195 Melrose Avenue. At this address, he killed a total of 12 men before relocating to 23 Cranley Gardens, also in London, where he killed the final 3. Suspicious bones led to a police inquiry when drain clearing firm Dino Rod assessed an obstruction and unpleasant odors at Cranley Gardens. Police apprehended Nilsen after discovering bags full of human entrails in one of his closets. Nilsen aided in every part of the police investigation, despite being cold and uncaring about his crimes. He assisted with the recovery of his victims' bodies at both locations, as well as providing comprehensive descriptions of the crimes and victims. Nilsen has been compared to American serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer in that he killed for no other reason than loneliness. His habit of leaving body parts and sometimes full bodies out in the open throughout the day and interacting with them is both pathetic and despicable. Dennis Nilsen is one of only a few convicts in the United Kingdom who is detained without the possibility of release. Robert Lyons, Avril Lavigne's biggest and deadliest fan. How far would you travel to see your favorite singer perform live? Robert Lyons, 39, stabbed his mother, with whom he shared a home, to death in 2011 when she refused to help him secure skybox tickets for an Avril Lavigne concert in his hometown of Chicago. Robert Lyons killed the 61-year-old woman by bludgeoning her with a champagne, or cognac, according to other reports, bottle and then stabbing her 9 times in the back. The attack was claimed to have been so brutal that the knife's blade broke off in her back, forcing him to grab another. Lyons threw Drano and various under-the-sink cleaning solutions on his mother's body to humiliate her, then left the condo to go shopping and was later caught at a nearby Hooters restaurant. He was found guilty and sentenced to 40 years in jail. Brenda Ann Spencer, She Didn't Like Mondays. Bob Geldof's band's hit song lasted a month at the top of the UK singles chart. Unlike most great chart successes, this one was inspired by Brenda Ann Spencer's infamous murdering spree at a San Diego high school. The problematic young lady resided directly across the street from Cleveland Elementary School. She began firing pot shots at some pupils waiting to enter the school on January 9, 1979, from her home. Burton Ragg, the school's principal, was shot and murdered while attempting to help some of the injured students, and custodian Mike Sakar was also shot and killed while attempting to assist Principal Ragg. As officers arrived on the scene, the young assassin began shooting at them. Spencer had a phone conversation with a journalist during the 7-hour blockade within her home. She was subsequently apprehended by the cops and condemned to life in jail. She will be eligible for parole again in 2019. What's more, why did she do it? The only thing she said that approximated a rationale was to a journalist she spoke to while involved in a gunfight with the cops. I don't like Mondays. Craig Walter, Unhappy Angler. In 2005, two East London friends decided to go fishing on a canal bank near London's Isle of Dogs. Craig Walter, 34, and Maurice Wilson, 48, had concluded that there are only two things that can make fishing more relaxing: a lot of weed and a lot of alcohol. The best buddies had smoked 15 joints and consumed a lot of alcohol, with Walter consuming the lion's share of both. Needless to say, both gentlemen were a little tipsy at this point. Some people become giddy and view the world through a blurry yet cheerful lens. Some people develop paranoia. We have one of each in this scenario. Unfortunately for Maurice Wilson, the paranoid Walter was the knife-wielding one. Wilson had spent the most of his time extolling the wonders of the earth and reveling in life. This appeared to be having a negative impact on his fellow angler. Finally, after screaming, "I adore life," Wilson found himself the target of a vicious onslaught. He was stabbed 17 times for expressing he enjoyed being alive. Yoroko Enoja, one wife too many. Enoja, a successful businessman, was having an affair with his newest, youngest wife when his other five wives barged in and demanded that he satisfy their desires as well. Isn't that not the worst thing ever? Wrong. The libidinous females attacked the man with knives and sticks, forcing him to do the same thing with each of them at the same time. It was the penultimate wife's time after a few rolls in the sack, but it didn't work out. Enoja slumped and died, likely as a result of weariness and stress causing cardiac arrest. According to reports, he was raped to death. So, what's the motivation? Jealousy, plain and simple. So, what's the big deal about that? It was a mob of wives combined jealousy. According to the most recent news, 2 of the wives have been arrested. Walter Seifert, hate doctors, kill children. From the perpetrator of the Cologne school massacre, Walter Seifert's open letter to pharmaceutical companies, doctors, and medical agencies. These terrible remarks were penned by a guy who had become insane as a result of the multiple injustices he believed the medical profession and, to a lesser extent, the government had perpetrated against him. He'd been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and he believed he'd been tricked out of his war pension after doctors determined that the tuberculosis in his lungs was mostly inactive. His wife had also died in childbirth. To say the least, he was not a fan of doctors. It is beyond the comprehension of any normal person why this would lead him to commit a heinous school massacre. Seifert made a lance out of a broom handle and a triangular scraper, as well as a flamethrower out of a netting-covered pesticide sprayer filled with motor oil and paint thinner. He killed 8 youngsters between the ages of 8 and 12, as well as 2 teachers. Before being apprehended, the maniac ingested a pesticide and died. The Matrix defense. It's nothing new to blame popular media for a variety of societal ills. Whether it's rock music that's turning our kids into Satan-worshipping baby eaters, especially songs like The Who's Mama's Got a Squeezebox, or televised pro wrestling that's making individuals suplex their free will and younger siblings, people enjoy blaming institutions. In the years after The Matrix originally graced our screens and blew our minds, a startling number of cases have surfaced in which killers have justified their murders by stating they are in the film. Or rather, the film's concept as reality. That is to say, this isn't reality, it's whatever. The so-called Matrix defense has proven remarkably popular in recent years. Tonda Lynn Hamilton was found not guilty due to insanity after claiming that she shot her landlady in the head after being sucked into the Matrix. Vadim Misij's, Joshua Cook, and Lee Malvo's crimes have all been related to the film in some way. Armin Moose, mail-order cannibal. A strong desire to butcher and eat human flesh is frequently a symptom that you've gone insane. However, the manner in which he carried out his childhood fantasy of killing and eating someone makes you wonder whether he was a criminal or simply breaking a taboo. Moose advertised on the Cannibal Café website that he was looking for a willing victim. He discovered one. After a few others reacted but then left, perhaps because they realized Moose was serious, Bernd Jürgen Armando Brandis, a Berlin engineer, responded. Bernd was eaten after the two met up. Was this, however, a murder? Moose was found guilty after the first trial. Of manslaughter, to be precise. However, a retrial eventually concluded that he was guilty of murder, and he is now serving a life sentence in jail. This case blurs the borders between what constitutes murder and what does not, yet we can all agree that Mu's actions were reprehensible. Even Mu seems to agree, as he has now advocated for persons who are experiencing cannibalistic fantasies to get professional counseling before committing a crime. He is now a vegetarian as well. Geoffrey Hudson, Pride Before a Fall. The legend of Lord Minimus, an English dwarf, court jester, and slave, is incredible. In 1689, a guy from Oakham, Rutland, was born. Among the many incredible events in his life, such as being kidnapped and enslaved for 25 years by Barbary pirates and sharing his royal palace with a Welsh giant named William Evans and a monkey named Pug, his duel with William Crofts, the brother of Queen Henrietta's master of horses, is perhaps the most incredible. Although the Queen's personal dwarf, Hudson, who had been presented to her by rising out a big pie clad in miniature armor, must have been used to jokes at his expense, one jest was too much for him. They fought with pistols on horseback after being insulted by the brother of a semi-important courtier, and Hudson shot his opponent in the head. The Queen's retinue had gone to France to escape the English Civil War, and dueling was strictly prohibited. After a quarter-century as a slave, the Queen exiled him, and he returned to England, where he was eventually imprisoned for being a Catholic. One big question remains. Why hasn't Terry Gilliam made a movie about it? Fergus Glenn, Two Little Words. We should all pay greater attention to our P's and Q's. As you approach your stop, thanking a bus driver. Adding a "please" to the end of the drink round you're purchasing. Thanking a kind loved one who has just served you a delicious meal. No, truly, we should remember the previous example. Fergus Glenn, 36, of Wainuiomata, New Zealand, had just finished cooking dinner for his younger brother Craig in 2003. Craig, 33, savored his final supper without so much as a "ta, bro." This infuriated the chef, who was clearly proud of his work. Fergus killed his brother with an axe, claiming, "He just irritated me, so I did it. I'm not proud of myself, but I did it." There had been a simmering rivalry between the two since they had gotten into a fistfight some time earlier. Fergus, on the other hand, was driven to it by a lack of ordinary civility. He is currently receiving a life sentence in prison. Subscribe to the channel and like it. There are still many interesting stories ahead.